Do you have an Atari 2600 that doesn't work? I did. Watch this video to see how I fixed it.
Bog Panda.
Hi, everybody. This is Kelly at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram.
And I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, leave a comment, buy some merch, come back, leave another comment letting us know that you bought merch, and send some pictures of it while you're at it.
Those are very full and complete instructions. Well done. So tonight's show, we're going to, so this is like, we have mentioned retro recipes a lot on this channel. If you're not subscribed to him, you need to. It's great content, tremendously talented guy, great producer.
And now he just got the Squat Cobbler bump on top of all that.
Yeah, the sky's the limit for retro recipes now with the did you say Squat Cobbler bump?
Oh, wow, I did, yeah.
Yeah.
The Bog Panda bump.
Even more powerful than the Squat Cobbler. But so we're going to do a show kind of like his, except with like about 1/100th of the technical knowledge and all that. But many of you probably don't have your own circuit board, soldering machine, laser things that all he has going on. And so this is going to be kind of the simple person's thing. If you happen to have an Atari 2600s or a Sears Tele-Games, which is what I have, which is the Sears version of the Atari 2600, same chassis, just some different logos and stuff on it from there. I had one. I had loaned it out a long time ago. Person I gave it to, it stopped working for them. They gave it back and sat in a box for years. And as we've been doing various shows, I said, you know what? It would be pretty cool to try and get that thing running again. So it's just going to kind of run Mike through what I did to accomplish it. And it was a bit of a journey. So this certainly won't be the video that can fix anybody's 26, because if you have actually problems with the circuitry or some of the resistors and capacitors and whatever else is kind of going on in there, not the video that's going to fix that for you. But if the main guts of your machine are intact, here's some things I kind of went through to get something that was originally a screen full of static to playing Atari 2600 in all of its 8-bit glory. And so we'll go from there. So Mike, did you ever have a 2600 or Tele-Games or anything like that?
So I didn't personally own one, but I have played original hardware 2600, and I did as a kid as well. My dad had an old one that I came across at one point, and an uncle of mine as well.
Yeah, and up until this go around here, my extent of technical fixes to it was blowing on the cartridge before you put it back in. And sometimes that would work, sometimes it wouldn't. But I had re-inherited it, had it back, and originally plugged it in to just see if I could get anything, and it was a screen of snow. Now, my original and biggest error to begin with is the cable that comes out looks a lot like an RCA adapter, and you kind of think with a newer TV that you could plug that RCA-ish looking thing into the video input and you might get that, no sound. But no, that's not the way it's going to work. That's an F cable. And typically the ways those were connected to televisions is you connected it to an adapter. And I'll have some photos of these that will kind of show throughout the video. But an adapter that would attach to the two screws for the antenna port and that's how you would connect the game. Well, I have a really old TV that I was going to get this to run on, but not that old. So it's old enough that it's, a big tank. It's huge, a big screen, but it's just monstrous. But no HDMI input on it, none of that good stuff. But unfortunately, also no little antenna screws either. So I ended up having to purchase a fine little adapter piece that connects to, it's an F cable to coax adapter. And so basically that is just, I got 4 of them for $5. You attach that onto the F cable and you then go right in your TV into the coax. And this TV is at least new enough that it has a coax. And so now I had an actual connection from my Atari 2600 to the TV. So life is good. Turned it on. Again, snow, nothing there. Not a good sign, because snow basically means there's nothing going on for there. So the next thing I went to try and figure out was maybe, because I had the OG power supply for this. And so I said, let's see if maybe that's dead. So I did have, and we'll include a picture of this as well. If you don't have one of these and you have various electronics around your house, you should. It's the multi-setting adapter. So it's an AC adapter you plug in the wall, but then it's got a little slider where you can change it from 9 volt to 12 volt to all these different types of things, and positive and negative. You can kind of flip there's little controls on it to get the whole thing set done. And it has a little wheel of all sorts of different connectors. So it's a very versatile device that if you've lost your power supply and you know what amperage and voltage you need to go into it, you can set this thing up and you can do it. So I highly recommend having one of those around the house, because
how much does something like that run?
It's $10-15. It's just,
okay.
It's just, it looks, it looks pretty much like any of the old adapters you see that you kind of plug in the black adapter box, but it's just got a switch on it and an ability to change the polarity on it. And it goes in on, typically on devices, if you look at it, you'll see the little line, and there'll be kind of an arrow going, or a line going towards the center dot, and there'll be a kind of a half circle. And if it's coming from the positive, that's one setting. And then if that little half circle's on the negative, it's a different setting. And you just can, on that actual controller, set those to whatever you need to. And so I looked at my OG, got the settings right, set it up, plugged it in, turned it on again. Progress. It was now a black screen. So had to do the old, and this goes, so many of our viewers probably have no idea what we're talking about here. You had to sometimes jump between channels 3 or 4 to get the Atari to kind of come through, and you had to kind of figure out which one. So I was kind of playing with that a little bit too. And one, there was garbage, but then on channel 4, I had a black screen. So I said, well, now there's some sort of signal coming from my Atari 2600 to the TV, but not playable yet from there. So then the highest tech fix I needed to do, as we talk about that very strange to many people channel 3, channel 4 situation, there's also a switch on the Atari box that was A and B, and it's on the underside of the box. And that typically, depending on your TV and some other things that went on, you'd have to either run it through channel 3 or channel 4, and that A and B toggle kind of helped you jump between one of those. So I have a lot of fancy electronic repair equipment around the house too, much like Retro Recipes. So I got a paper clip and I straightened out my paper clip and got it down, because that switch was really hard to reach. But it's just a little, almost like a light switch slider type of thing. And I kind of kept trying to move it back and forth. And it appears that at some point that switch maybe got stuck halfway between A and B. And so after a few times and jockeying, all of a sudden I'd start to see actually a game show up, and it went away. And so I kind of went going through a few more times. And so basically that switch had kind of lost its connection. And by fiddling with it a couple times and kind of getting maybe some corrosion off or whatever and turning it to different things, I finally got it on, and boom, there was now an Atari game showing up on my screen, but kind of snowy. So not too bad, but a little bit. And this was, again, we learn a lot from Retro Recipes. He talked a lot about sometimes it's the voltage coming out of a particular outlet, or other cables by the cord. So this cable coming from the Atari to the back of the TV was very close to an extension cord. They had some other things plugged into it. So I kind of rearranged things so that there was a tremendous amount of distance between the two. And it was a crisp, good as 1981 view of Atari. So I was up and running. And I'm super glad I am, because somewhere between me loaning my system out and getting it back, there were a few additions that occurred that I found in the box. One of which and this was on Retro Recipes, is the Empire Strikes Back Star Wars one that he just did a whole episode on. And he was right. This is a really fun game. This is a lot of this Atari 2600 stuff. Playability is not so great. This is a good game. So got that one and enjoyed a lot of time with that. I know Mike was dying to know about this one, of course, Pigs in Space. So had the Pigs in Space Atari game. Actually, surprisingly, pretty good gameplay on Pigs in Space. So props to that. And then, of course, the reason I got it back and running again is that this bad boy was in the box, Tax Avoiders. And I just had to see what that was all about. And A+ for storyline and complexity on what you need to do in terms of earning money and investing stuff in stock that will not get taxed heavily, like solar energy and all those types of things. But the play doesn't necessarily follow the instructions quite as well. But you fight an IRS agent. Your antagonist is an IRS agent, an investment counselor, and a lawyer, I think, which is always the same character, just a different color with a kind of a cap on. And you grab dollar signs and try and avoid red tape. There's red tape that goes across, looks a lot like a snake, and earn so much money, and you see how much you can earn in a year. So, like I said, the concept of the game is pretty great. Game is pretty great. The actual execution and playability, I'm still waiting to fall in love with it. It's no Pigs in Space. That's all I'm saying from there. But I just wanted to, for any folks that just happen to have one of these relics going around and you don't have the kind of technical knowledge to start resoldering stuff and going through, there may be some more simple fixes about checking that power supply, checking that AB switch, making sure from a connection standpoint on your F cable, get to something you can go into coax. Those steps got me back and running, and I got Atari 2600 up and going again, and then cleaned it up. So a plug for product placement for Mr. Clean wipes, the little white sponge things, those do a heck of a job. And so this thing, which had, basically sat in two basements, caked in dust, cleaned it back up, looks, pretty darn nice now. So we'll have some photos of that as well. So it was kind of fun, and I was glad to get it back. And you said a couple of these games have been pretty fun to do, particularly the Star Wars one. But again, I'm going to plug Pigs in Space. Not a bad game.
I'm going to have to see if I have totally legal ROMs of those games so I can try them out for myself. So obviously, I hope our YouTube overlords don't misunderstand when you talk about plugging in your F cable.
We will find out shortly.
And of course, we have to ask, any of those adult Atari games floating around your house, sir?
There is, unfortunately, no. There is none of those. I was actually surprised though in this box of stuff I got back, new things had been added. None of those, sorry. But I have 2 editions of Atari Force, which was a comic they did with DC, and they used to package them with games. And I only have volume 1 and volume 3, but they're basically in pristine condition. It was just really weird how some of these things held up. But no, the Tax Avoiders is about as racy as it gets in the collection that I have.
Now, are you, now that you have a working original hardware 2600, do you think you'll be picking up any cartridges?
I might. So this is where I go. We did a show sometime back on some Atari re-releases they were gonna do. I may go back and take a look at those and just see kind of what's out there. I mean, if there's some sort of special edition stuff, I'm in the market. I'll look as long as it's not kind of cost prohibitive. So I have to see what they're looking to do. But yeah, I would probably for the right experience and game, I'd probably pick something up again. It is an interesting challenge because it was more of I wanted to get it to work, and I just thought it'd be kind of cool to have it up and running again. But I have well over half of the cartridges that I have available for me, fully licensed on the At-Games Legends Ultimate. So I have a bunch of 2600 games on there. On Super Console X, we're not going to weigh in officially on licensing on the Super Console X, but they sold it to me with all these Atari games on there. So I'm sure everything's fine. And So it has a few more on there. So but I'll have to go back and look and see if the Super Console X has pigs in space. I really didn't expect to be such a big proponent for the game, but it's actually pretty good gameplay. So I will look for it to answer your question. Yeah, I will probably look for a couple cartridges. I'll go back to, because the Super Console X had the 3 titles that they re-released or kind of repackaged a while back, and I kind of played them, and I wasn't like in love with the gameplay. The Star Wars one is amazing. So if I can get anything else kind of along that line, I will.
So what's at the top of your list right now? Say you're out, looking in retro gaming stores and things like that. What's something that you're going to keep an eye out for cartridge wise?
I think it's going to be, and I have to go back to, and I'll include in the description of the video, the various manufacturers of these cartridges, because there's a lot of ones from Atari, but there's some from Coleco. There's some from, it's like M Studios was another one. And so there's a variety of them. And I think it was this M Studios one. There was a football game that I used to play the heck out of. That is not, I have multiple versions of football cartridges, but none of them are this specific one. That was just basically you had 4 players, and you kind of program those 4 players to do something, and your quarterback. And it was really good fun gameplay. We played a lot of that in college when we were studying. So the football game was great. So that's really the one I'm going to be looking for. The other thing that's interesting, I'm going to have to do some research, and maybe some of our listeners know, I actually have 2 cartridges with the exact same cover art on them. It's a soccer game, and it's from Atari, but one of them says Atari Soccer, and the other one says Atari Football, and they're both. So I don't know if one was like a European release or whatever.
It sounds like, yeah.
And then I have, so kind of in the stack of things, I've got Atari Football, NFL kind of football. Well, not, it's Atari, so, but American football. And then the Atari Soccer, and the Atari Football again, which is soccer again. So it's just have to kind of see. I'm guessing that might have been a European release, but I don't know where that one came from. I do not recall that purchase when I was the proprietor of the 2600.
So you're an international man of mystery, sir.
That's right. So I'm sure it probably came from a European Sears too. I'm sure we imported, we wouldn't have just gone to the American Sears. We would have gone to those fancy European Sears stores to get our Tele-Games, which I think, and we'd have to go back and look, I think they probably sold it at Sears for a little less than if you can get it from Atari. Have to be. I mean, given my dad would have bought it, probably had to be. So
yeah, I believe the Sears model was slightly less, if I remember correctly.
But it is cool, and I had forgotten, it has a novice and expert switch on it. So you kind of go into a game, you can kind of declare your intentions. So we certainly see that in games today when you go in, but I had forgotten that baked into the console is just a little lever you could pull to say, yep, I'm a novice. So
very interesting. Well, I'm curious to see any of these photos, and of course, anything that you pick up in the future, and kind of see, it'd be cool too to kind of see the compatibility with some of the newer cartridge games that have come out from, small indie companies and things, and see how that runs on original hardware.
Yep, definitely. So any of our listeners that are kind of into that game and have some recommendations, love to hear about them in the comments, because I'm in the market. I got a Tele-Games up and running, and I intend to use it. So thanks for watching, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.